Gene Hackman's death was not only a tragedy, but also a deliberate exclusion, a bloody play orchestrated by those who knew too much about him. The FBI has just released a list of the most suspicious individuals, and it is more shocking than anyone could imagine. Friends, close associates, even family members betrayed Hackman, the ones who pushed him into eternal darkness. And what lies ahead is only one truth, and it will send chills down the spine of the entire world. If you are curious about the mysterious departure of Hackman and his wife, leave number 1, otherwise leave number 0 in the comment section below. Chapter 1. A Hollywood Tragedy or Something More. New Mexico. A cold morning. The wooden house where Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, lived quietly under a gray sky. No one could have imagined that inside, a silent tragedy had unfolded. When the police received the call, they never expected to witness such a strange scene. Hackman, one of Hollywood's greatest actors, had passed away, and so had Betsy Arakawa. But what really happened inside that house? When the news of Hackman's death appeared in the papers, the public's first reaction was shock. Hackman had almost vanished from Hollywood for 2 decades, enjoying a peaceful life in New Mexico, with the wife he had loved for many years. No paparazzi, no interviews, no public events, just him, Betsy, and peaceful days surrounded by nature, and now they are gone. Hollywood was shaken. Former colleagues like Robert Duvall, Dustin Hoffman, and Clint Eastwood expressed their sorrow. But even amidst the condolences, there was a lingering sense of unease. What really happened? According to initial reports, Hackman died of heart disease. It is said that in his final week, he became disoriented due to Alzheimer's. No one found him until it was too late. Betsy Arakawa, his wife, was also found dead. The cause was identified as hantavirus, a rare disease transmitted by rodents. The two passed away just days apart. For many, this might seem like a tragic yet reasonable outcome. However, the police did not think so. They have not closed the case. There are still abnormalities. The first abnormality. How severe was Hackman's Alzheimer's in his final years? Hackman rarely appeared in public, leading many to believe he had serious Alzheimer's. However, his friends and neighbors told a different story. It was stated that Hackman remained sharp. He still drove himself to the supermarket, chatted with acquaintances, and even wrote some notes for the book he was working on. So why did the reports say he had been disoriented for the week before his death? If Hackman wasn't suffering from severe memory loss, why didn't he call for help? The second anomaly, hantavirus, a rare disease rate. Hantavirus is an extremely rare disease in the U.S., transmitted through the feces or urine of rodents. However, the number of deaths from the virus in the past decade could count it on one hand. Betsy Arakawa wasn't the type to easily contract a disease. She didn't work in high-risk areas. Their house was well-maintained with no signs of rodents or other pests. So where did hantavirus come from? Why did it appear just when Hackman was also facing trouble? Was this truly a mere coincidence? The third anomaly. There were no signs of an emergency call. The police checked Hackman and Betsy's call history from the past week, and there were no emergency calls, no signs of anyone trying to seek help without. The feeling that if Hackman was so disoriented that he couldn't save himself, Betsy couldn't call for help, and if Betsy was seriously ill, Hackman wouldn't have noticed anything wrong. But both remained silent. No one called for help, and no one asked the neighbors for assistance. Why? What did the police say? Although the official cause of death was announced, investigators have not closed the case. An anonymous officer revealed to the media that there were gaps, contradictions, and until the police can find a reasonable explanation, they will continuing the investigation into what really happened inside the house of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. Will Hollywood accept that this was just a natural tragedy, or is there another truth being hidden? Chapter 2. The Silent House. A week of unanswered questions. The house, nestled amid the desolate landscape of New Mexico, was where Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, had lived peacefully for many years. But in the final week of February, that silence suddenly turned into an eerie presence. Betsy passed away on February 18th. Gene Hackman lived alone for 7 days afterward, with no emergency calls, no messages, and no one saw him seeking help. So what really happened inside that house? A 95-year-old man surviving for a week in complete silence. Despite being a Hollywood icon, a strong man with a stellar career, age does not spare anyone. The medical report stated that Hackman was disoriented due to Alzheimer's after his wife passed away. But this made the police even more suspicious. If Hackman was really so severely affected by Alzheimer's that he was unaware of his surroundings, how could he have lived a week without assistance, without anyone seeing him leave the house, without anyone hearing any sounds? A week without help. No one saw him leave the house, no one heard any sounds, no signs of food or drink being used more than usual. Could a 95-year-old man take care of himself in a state of disorientation for 7 days without any help? Without an emergency call? Why didn't Hackman seek help? One of the strangest things about this case is Hackman's absolute silence. He didn't call the police. He didn't ask the neighbors for help. He didn't contact any family or friends. The landline remained in place and Hackman's mobile phone was placed right on his desk, but no calls were made during those 7 days. This wasn't a sudden accident. He had time to react. Why did Hackman do nothing? The rules of survival traces. What did Hackman actually do during those days? The police checked the kitchen and the fridge in Hackman's house, with no signs of any meals being prepared in the past week. They checked the bathroom sink, with no signs of water being used more than usual. The door was still locked from the inside. So, what did Hackman do during those 7 days? Did he really survive the whole week? Or did he pass away earlier without anyone knowing? Gene Hackman had a pacemaker, a device that monitored his heartbeat and could send signals to a medical center if anything went wrong. The last signal from Hackman's pacemaker was recorded on February 18th, the same day Betsy passed away. After that, no more signals. If Hackman truly survived until February 26th, why didn't the pacemaker record any further signals from his heart? From February 8th to February 26th, there were no traces of Gene Hackman's existence. People saw him, but no one heard any sounds from the house. No one received any messages or calls from him, as if he had disappeared from this world right after February 18th. But if that was the case, why did it take 8 days for someone to find him? What really happened inside that house? The police still have no answers, but they know this story is far from over. Chapter 3. The dog in the closet. An ominous clue? Gene Hackman's New Mexico estate was vast and shrouded in the grim atmosphere of an unresolved tragedy. The police stepped in, their footsteps echoing. On the cold wooden floor, the traces of death remained an unfinished story, fragmented details like pieces of a puzzle that couldn't be put together. But no one expected one of the most important clues to come from a small creature, a dog. During the investigation of the house, the police discovered something unusual in Hackman's main bathroom. A closet door was closed, no signs of forced entry, nothing suspicious. But when an investigator opened the door, a horrifying scene appeared before them. Inside, a small cage, Xena, the dog, was dead. The police were stunned. Xena did not die of old age or an accident, but had been locked in a confined space without water or food. But what was even more strange was why Xena was there, who had thrown it into the closet. Gene Hackman had 3 dogs: Xena, a small dog closest to Betsy Arakawa, Bear, a larger dog with a strong appearance, and Nikita, another large breed dog. The odd thing was that only Xena had died, while Bear and Nikita were still alive, though they appeared frantic. Bear and Nikita avoided eye contact with humans, whimpering and showing signs, a sense of unease as the police approached, both dogs trembling, huddled against the wall as if they had witnessed something terrible. Dogs are highly instinctive animals, and they don't react like that without reason. What happened in this house? Xena's death wasn't just a random coincidence. Just days before Hackman and Betsy were found, Xena had undergone surgery. Betsy Arakawa, an animal lover, was very concerned about Xena's health. But strangely, instead of being in a warm place to recover, Xena was locked in a cage inside a closet. Many questions arise. Why was a dog who had just undergone surgery locked in such a cramped space? Who locked it in there? If Hackman truly was disoriented due to Alzheimer's, would he have been clear-headed enough to do this? If Hackman didn't do it, then who did? What further perplexes the police? Hackman lived alone in the house for 7 days after his wife passed away, with no emergency calls, no messages sent. But if Hackman was truly disoriented due to Alzheimer's, how could he function normally for those 7 days? Moreover, Xena died during this time, meaning it was locked in the closet while Hackman was still alive. Did he do it? Or was it someone else who locked Xena in the closet? One of the theories the police proposed is that someone appeared in the house during this time. If Hackman wasn't clear-headed enough to lock Xena in the closet himself, then who did it? The police re-examined the entire crime scene for signs of a third party, but there were no signs of forced entry. No security camera footage of anyone coming in or out, or leaving any strange fingerprints inside the house. If someone broke into the house, how did they do it and what did they do? Was Xena a witness to a horrifying truth? The police began to propose a more chilling theory. Xena might have witnessed something it wasn't supposed to see. If there was a struggle, an attack in the house, Xena could have reacted. If someone wanted to hide something, they might have locked Xena in the closet to prevent it from getting out. Or worse, they might have done so to destroy crucial evidence. Bear and Nikita were still alive, but their reactions were not like normally. Dogs don't bark loudly, but they cower in fear as if they've witnessed something horrifying. Normally, dogs don't bark loudly, but they cower in fear as if they've witnessed something horrifying. What really happened inside this house? Do the signs from Zena's surgery relate to this? Data from the veterinary clinic shows that Zena had undergone surgery just a week before being locked in the closet. Is this just a coincidence? What illness did Zena have? Did anyone interfere with its health? Did someone intentionally turn Zena into a factor in this case? The police began to review Zena's entire medical record, but what they found couldn't explain why this happened. Locked in the closet, Zena's death could be just a tragic coincidence, or it could be a crucial link in an even darker story. What's certain is that Zena couldn't lock herself in the closet. Hackman might not have been clear-headed enough to do that. The other two dogs were still alive but highly distressed. So, who locked Zena in there? This question remains unanswered, but it has opened up an entirely new direction for the investigation. This case may not be as simple as people think. Chapter 4. The Cell Phone. Mystery. What did Betsy know? Gene Hackman's vast house in New Mexico, once a peaceful sanctuary, but now it's just a crime scene of mystery, where two people died without anyone knowing exactly what happened. All the clues lead to the same question. What really happened to Betsy Arakawa before she passed away? And to answer that question, the police began revisiting the most important clue: her phone. Throughout the time before Hackman passed, there was no activity from his phone, no emergency calls, no messages sent, and no signs that Hackman had reached out to anyone for help, if he truly had. If he truly had Alzheimer's, as the official report stated, could explain why he didn't use his phone, but it also raises another suspicion. Was he truly completely disoriented, or did someone take his phone? If he wasn't clear-headed enough to use his phone, then who was in the house with him during that time? This became even stranger when the police began examining Betsy Arakawa's phone, and what they found could change the entire direction of the investigation. Betsy's phone was still there, placed right on the kitchen counter. But strangely, all of her messages stopped after February 11th. No messages were sent after that date. No calls, no signs that she tried to contact anyone as her health deteriorated. This is completely unusual. Betsy was an active woman, frequently in touch with friends and family. If she truly had hantavirus, she would have shown symptoms like fever, fatigue, and difficulty breathing for several days. It's impossible that she wouldn't have reached out to anyone to talk about her condition, so why did all of her communication suddenly stop? If you feel these are suspicious, leave a 1, otherwise leave a 0 in the comments below. The police are still continuing to review her. The message history revealed something strange in the final messages. Betsy texted a close friend on the morning of February 11th. The content of the message wasn't anything special, just a normal conversation. "I'm feeling a little unwell today. Maybe just tired from talking." Later, Betsy's friend texted back to check on her but never received a reply. And then there was complete silence. This raises an important question. Was Betsy really just tired on February 11th, or was she feeling the signs of something worse? If she was infected with hantavirus, why was there no sign of her seeking medical assistance? But more importantly, what did she do just before she disappeared for the last time? Betsy appeared on CCTV. The police retrieved data from surveillance cameras in the area and found the last images of Betsy Arakawa alive on the afternoon of February 11th. She was seen at a pharmacy in Santa Fe, about a 15-minute drive from her house. She was wearing a thick gray coat, bought some cold medicine, hand sanitizer, and a large bottle of water. She left the pharmacy around 3:40 p.m. She drove home. That was the last time she was seen alive. Why the pharmacy? Was she feeling unwell, suspecting she was sick, or was she trying to buy medication for Gene Hackman? No one knows the answer. After Betsy left the pharmacy that afternoon, no one saw or heard from her again. No messages, no calls, no signs that she had contacted anyone. If Betsy truly had hantavirus, she would have shown symptoms for several days before passing. But if so, why was there no sign that she had tried to contact anyone? And an even more important question, what about her phone? Was it truly inactive after February 11th, or did someone erase the traces? The police began examining hidden data on the phone to look for any deleted calls or hidden messages. But before they could do that, another discovery changed the entire case. When investigating the SIM data, the police noticed a strange gap in Betsy's phone log from February 11th to February 14th, with no calls. However, on February 15th, there was an unusual signal. A call was disconnected after just 2 seconds. Who made the call? Why was the call disconnected immediately? Was Betsy still alive on February 15th? Or did someone else tamper with her phone? These gaps couldn't just be a coincidence. The police began to suspect that Betsy had discovered something before she died. She had tried to contact someone, but was unable to. Did someone block her call? Was her phone manipulated to conceal the truth? The deeper they dug into the case, the more the police realized that things weren't as simple as they thought. Gene Hackman's death might just be part of a much larger mystery, and if Betsy's phone really tampered with means someone intentionally hid something, the only question is, what was it? Chapter 5. The Locked Room. Enigma, was it just an accident? The small room between the garage and the main entrance of the house is where Gene Hackman was found last. His body lay on the cold floor, with his familiar sunglasses and cane next to him. His position suggested that he fell quickly without being able to react. But was this truly just an accident? Or was something more sinister at play? The room was locked with no signs of forced entry, but no one was there. As soon as the police entered the scene, they realized something important. No signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no objects were disturbed. Everything in the mudroom was intact, except for Hackman's lifeless body. The front door was locked from the inside, all the windows were closed, and the security cameras didn't record anyone coming or going that week. So, how did Hackman end up falling there? And if he was truly alone in the house for 7 days, why did no one receive any signs from him? Hackman's appearance when found. Something unusual is suggested. He showed no signs of trying to get up. The walking cane was neatly placed next to him, with no sign of being thrown or falling to the floor. His sunglasses fell neatly without being broken or bent. The police theorized that he may have fainted immediately from a heart attack, or perhaps he saw something that startled him. Was there someone else in the house with him at that moment? A normal fall usually comes with signs of a struggle. A hand reaching out to regain balance, a scratch on the floor, but here, there was nothing. Hackman's house was in a secluded area, but even so, there were neighbors nearby. No one heard any sounds. No one heard any cries for help. No one reported any unusual activity around his house. So if Hackman had a heart attack, did he not have time to call for help? Why were there no calls from him that week? Or did someone deliberately do something to ensure he couldn't call anyone? The police reviewed his entire communication history, but found no signs of emergency calls. The biggest question is, who came and went without a trace? The police discovered, when checking the security cameras around Hackman's house, that there was a gap in the data. On February 18th, the day the last signal from Hackman's pacemaker was recorded, this means someone came that day. Did they meet Hackman? Were they involved in his death? What did they do during the time the cameras lost signal? What's even stranger, from February 18th to February 26th, the security cameras recorded no movement in the house. This means Hackman lay there for so long without anyone knowing, or did someone erase data to conceal something? An interesting detail. Why was Hackman wearing sunglasses inside the house? Did the light bother him, or was he preparing to go somewhere? Did someone come to the house, and did he go out to greet them? And the cane, which Hackman always used to move around, why was it lying right next to him without any signs of being thrown or damaged? If he fell hard, the cane should have landed at a different angle, not lying right next to him as if it was placed neatly. These small details could say a lot. Did someone come? On that fateful day, with all the above, the police began to wonder if someone had come on February 18th, and if that person was the cause of Hackman's fall. How could they leave without leaving any traces? Assuming someone was in the house, they might have manipulated the scene to make everything look like a natural accident. The police are examining every detail of the case, but the deeper they go, the more unanswered questions they find. And as they continue to dig into the secrets of the house, a horrifying truth begins to emerge. Chapter 6. The Final Loophole. What are they not telling us? They didn't tell us that Gene Hackman's house had become a ruin, the walls still standing, but the mystery inside remains unsolved. Although the police have announced the cause of death, Hackman died of heart disease after a week of disorientation due to Alzheimer's, and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, died of hantavirus. They still haven't officially closed the case. There are too many holes in this story, and there's something they're not telling. The police sent Zena's body for forensic examination. Anyone who has ever owned a dog knows one thing. If something happened inside the house, they would have reacted. But instead of being found in the living room or garden, where Zena could run or bark to signal danger, it was locked in the closet in the bathroom, a highly unusual location. Who locked Zena in there? Was it in there before Betsy passed away, or was it locked up after Hackman fell? The other two dogs, Bear and Nikita, were still alive, but in a state of panic. They wouldn't leave their owner, always timid and showing signs of extreme stress. This raises an even more frightening question. The question is, what happened inside the house that the three dogs sensed? And if Zena was truly poisoned, could this be evidence that someone intentionally orchestrated everything? Betsy's phone data has been recovered, and investigators are analyzing her last messages before she passed. The last time Betsy was seen was on surveillance cameras at a pharmacy on February 11th. The police believe she was feeling unwell at that time, but no one knows exactly how she got back home. Did she text someone to say she was sick? Did anyone visit her in the last days of her life? Did Betsy try to call for help but no one responded? Strangely, after February 11th, her phone didn't work. No calls, no messages, No sign she had contacted anyone. An unusual silence. Hackman's phone was also completely empty, with no calls in the 7 days after his wife passed. Does this make sense? An Alzheimer's patient might forget many things, but the survival instinct remains. If Hackman knew his wife had passed, why didn't he try to call someone? Or did someone make sure he couldn't do that? The fragments of the case still doesn't fully add up. Let's review all the anomalies. Betsy died of hantavirus, a rare disease transmitted through rodents, but no one knows exactly when she contracted the virus. Hackman lived alone for 7 days without seeking help, which doesn't make sense for someone with late-stage Alzheimer's. Xena, the dog, was locked in a closet and died mysteriously, while the other 2 dogs were still alive but frantic. There were no signs of forced entry, but the security cameras had a gap on February 18th. So, what really happened? Was Hackman really alone in that house? Did someone come and go without the police detecting it? Could this really have been an accident? Why are there so many details that can't be reasonably explained? One thing is certain. The police still haven't provided a final answer. Although the investigators have announced the cause of death, they are keeping the case open and continue analyzing the evidence. The forensic report on Xena is still pending, the data from Betsy's phone is still being decoded, and experts are still examining the security cameras. Is there any sign of interference? If this truly was a series of random tragedies, why hasn't the police closed the case? The biggest question remains, were Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa simply victims of a cruel fate, or is there something darker being concealed? The case remains open and may never be closed. There are 2 major gaps, too many details that can't be reasonably explained. Is this really a random tragedy, or is there a horrifying truth being hidden? The police are waiting for the final investigative results, but the biggest question still is, do we truly want to know the truth? If you like this content, please leave a comment and don't forget to support us by liking, sharing, and following us to receive the next videos.